Emily crashed into my life like a thunderstorm on a blue sky day. One minute, I was passing out math worksheets at the school talent show, and the next, this barefoot art teacher with paint on her jeans was sitting next to me, laughing at the same dumb student skit I was faking interest in. My name's Jake. I'm 29. I teach algebra at a high school in Lexington, Kentucky. Back then, my life was as predictable as a Monday morning bell. That night, Emily threw that rhythm off. In the best way, at least, that's what I thought. She taught studio art and didn't believe in rubrics or deadlines. Meanwhile, I had spreadsheets for everything, down to the number of dry erase markers I went through each quarter. She thought that was hilarious. I thought she was chaos. But it worked. We clicked. I'd never met anyone like her. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? We started dating a week after that night. Every Friday, we'd hit up this hole-in-the-wall jazz bar near campus. Sundays were hiking trails, even though she always forgot water and I always brought too much. We joked that I was the brakes and she was the gas. Her impulsiveness, it kept things exciting. My planning, it kept us from falling apart. It was balance. A year flew by like nothing. Then her dad got sick, real sick, stage 4 lung cancer. Everything else stopped. Emily was wrecked, and I stepped up. I drove her to the hospital, sat with her through those long-ass silent waiting rooms, covered her classes when she couldn't function. I didn't think twice. When the district offered me a position at a magnet school in Nashville, I turned it down. Better pay, a leadership role, I said no. I stayed. For her. She cried when I told her. Said no one had ever done something like that for her before. We started talking about the future, renting a bigger place, maybe getting a dog. Marriage came up once, half joking, but I saw the look in her eyes. She wanted that. So did I. But right around the time her dad took a turn for the better, something shifted. She started acting distracted, leaving the room to text, laughing at messages, but not saying who they were from. When I finally asked, she said it was just Luke, an old college friend. He's harmless, she said. You'd like him. Then the comments started. Little ones. Luke would have turned this into an adventure. You're just so steady. I laughed it off, figured it was stress. Her dad had just finished chemo. She was burned out, emotional. But deep down, something didn't sit right. I didn't push though. I kept telling myself, she just needs time. So I gave it to her. What I didn't see coming. I was giving her space to pull away. I found out exactly how far she'd pulled the night. She didn't come home till 3 in the morning. I was half asleep when the door finally creaked open. 3 in the damn morning. Emily slipped in like a teenager sneaking past curfew. No apology, no explanation, just, sorry, lost track of time. She smelled like whiskey and some cologne that wasn't mine. I sat up. You okay? Yeah, she mumbled, heading straight for the bathroom. Was just with Luke. He's in town for a few days. That was it. No warning, no ask. Just a casual drop of his name, like we were all buddies now. The next morning she acted like nothing happened. Made toast, hummed along to a playlist, then casually said, you know, Luke would have turned that night into something fun. He always had these wild ideas. You would have hated it. I laughed, not because it was funny, because I didn't know what else to do. 2 nights later, we were at dinner with some coworkers and friends. Casual place, patio seating, string lights. Someone asked how we met. I started telling the story, but Emily jumped in halfway. Jake was the safest option in the room, she said, clinking her wine glass to mine. Reliable, solid. Honestly, sometimes I miss when life was more spontaneous. But hey, stability's cute too. People chuckled, awkward and unsure. I smiled like it didn't sting. After dinner, in the car, I asked, what was that? What was what? The comment. About me being safe. You really think that's funny? She rolled her eyes. Jake, it was a joke. Don't be so sensitive. I clenched the steering wheel. Would you say the same thing if I called you reckless and immature in front of your friends? Silence. 2 days later, I came home to a sink full of dishes, laundry piled on the couch, and Emily curled up texting, laughing to herself. Can you handle dinner tonight? She asked without looking up. I'm just not in the headspace. I handled it, like always. Cleaned, cooked, picked up groceries, prepped her lesson plans for the next day because she couldn't focus. This became the routine, her leaning harder, me breaking my back to keep things steady. I dropped my Thursday night runs to be home in case she needed something. Canceled Saturday gaming nights with the guys because she said I wasn't present enough. I figured, hell, her dad just got through chemo. Maybe this was some post-crisis burnout. But when I tried to talk to her, really talk, she'd shut down. I'm just tired, Jake. I need space. You're smothering me. Meanwhile, she never put the damn phone down. If it buzzed, she was on it in seconds. I caught her smiling at her screen more than she ever smiled at me those days. One night I asked, are you and Luke talking a lot? She didn't even hesitate. He just gets it, you know? I stared at her. Gets what? Life, the excitement, the passion. The feeling that anything can happen. She waved her hand around. This feels like we're 60 already. That one hit me in the gut. I bit my tongue. Didn't want to say something I couldn't walk back. But the message was clear. I was plan B. Luke was the what if she couldn't stop chasing. Still, I stayed. Picked up her dry cleaning. Made her lunch when she forgot. Did her damn car registration. Every time I thought about walking, I'd remember the hospital visits, the crying, the way she held on to me like I was her last anchor. It messed with my head. One night, I came home late from a parent-teacher meeting. She was on the couch with wine and her phone again. "You forgot to pick up the stuff for my art show tomorrow," she said flatly. "I told you I had a meeting. You could have made time. You always make time for your job." I dropped my bag. "I do everything around here, Emily." She scoffed. "And you want a medal for being a decent boyfriend?" "No," I snapped. "But I'd like to not feel like I'm competing with some ghost from your past while holding this whole thing together." She stood up. "If you think this is hard on you, imagine being stuck with someone who doesn't make you feel alive anymore." That night, I slept on the couch. And in the morning, I bought her those damn supplies anyway. I carried a cake in one hand and a bottle of wine in the other, pretending this wasn't the last place I wanted to be. Emily's mom had finished her last round of radiation 2 weeks earlier, and the whole family was throwing a party like they'd beaten death itself. I tried to match their energy, but inside, I was hollow. Emily barely looked at me when I walked in, just nodded toward the counter where the food went and drifted off to her cousin like I was a distant coworker, not her boyfriend. I stood around in the kitchen for a while, sipping beer and making small talk with her uncles about college football. Every few minutes I caught a glimpse of her across the room, laughing too hard, flipping her hair, leaning in close to someone who wasn't me. Her phone never left her hand. I kept thinking, maybe tonight she'll snap out of it. Maybe being surrounded by her family would remind her what mattered. An hour in, she finally walked over and tugged my sleeve. "Can we talk?" I followed her down the hallway into the laundry room. It was cold and smelled like detergent and dust. She crossed her arms and leaned against the dryer. "I've been talking to Luke again." Just like that. No build-up. No shame. Like it was a grocery list item she forgot to mention. I stared at her. "Seriously?" "He gets me," she said, like it was a fact, not a betrayal. "And before you say anything, I'm not cheating. Not physically, but emotionally. Yeah, probably." I blinked, trying to process the way she said it so calmly. "Then why the hell am I here, Emily?" She shrugged. "Because you're comfortable. You show up. You're dependable. But I've grown. I need more than that now." She stepped forward, voice sharper now. "You're safe, Jake. You don't push me. You don't challenge me. You make lists and meal plans and budget spreadsheets. And I feel like I'm living in a nursing home." I couldn't move. My hands clenched into fists at my sides. But I didn't say a word. "I stayed because it was easy," she went on. "You were useful when my dad got sick. But I can't fake this anymore." I heard footsteps in the hallway. Her aunt peeked in awkwardly, saw our faces, and backed off. Emily didn't flinch. "I'll forget you in a week. Luke's the kind of man I need." Behind her words was a challenge. Like she wanted me to yell or beg or fall apart right there in the laundry room. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I took a slow breath, kept my voice steady. "We're done." That's all I said. I stepped past her, walked down that hallway through a sea of relatives who suddenly wouldn't meet my eyes. Her mom was on the couch laughing. Her dad was in the kitchen pouring a drink, eyes flicking to me as I grabbed my jacket off the hook. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, then didn't. I nodded once and walked straight out the door. The wind outside hit me hard. It was warm but sharp, like the air had teeth. I didn't stop walking until I hit my car. I started the engine, stared at the wheel for a second, then pulled out of the driveway without looking back. I didn't even take off my jacket when I got home. Just walked straight into the bedroom, grabbed the first suitcase I saw, and started tossing in clothes. T-shirts, hoodies, socks. I didn't fold a damn thing. I wasn't thinking about logistics. I was thinking about how I'd wasted a year of my life holding up a house of cards Emily had already set on fire. Her stuff was scattered everywhere. Paintbrushes on the windowsill, shoes under the coffee table, that ugly denim jacket she wore on our first date hanging on the back of a chair. I didn't touch any of it. I left it all. I didn't even write a note. I sat on the edge of the bed, opened my phone, and blocked her number. Then I hit Instagram, Facebook, everything. Blocked. Gone. No explanations. No, "I hope you find happiness." No long-winded goodbye. She didn't deserve it. By sunrise, I was on the road. 3 hours south. That's how far I needed to go to stop seeing her ghost in every intersection. I'd already applied to a job in Chattanooga months ago, back when I was still pretending I didn't need a backup plan. The principal called the same day I sent my resume. I accepted without even asking about benefits. The apartment they put me in was small, beige, and smelled like fresh paint. But it was mine. No art supplies on the counter. No wine-stained mugs in the sink. Just peace. The job came with a pay bump and a fancy title, lead instructor of mathematics. I was teaching juniors and seniors at a prep school where parents emailed like they were managing hedge funds. It should have been overwhelming, but honestly, it felt like oxygen. The first few weeks were brutal. I'd get to school early, stay late, run lesson plans until midnight. I'd crash at my desk some nights. I wasn't sleeping much. Couldn't eat a full meal without feeling sick. The silence in that apartment echoed, but I kept moving. That's what saved me. I bought a bike and started cycling after school. The first few rides almost killed me. My legs burned, lungs on fire, but it beat sitting at home. On weekends, I'd drive out to Signal Mountain and hike until I couldn't feel my feet. There was this one trail with a lookout point that felt like standing on the edge of the world. I'd stand there and just breathe. I didn't check my old social accounts, didn't call mutual friends, didn't ask if anyone was wondering where I went. If Emily texted, I wouldn't have known. That part of my life was behind a locked door I wasn't opening. At school, things picked up fast. I started running after-school tutoring, helped launch a STEM club. The headmaster stopped by my class one afternoon and told me I had a calming presence. I almost laughed out loud. He had no idea the kind of storm I'd just walked out of. And slowly, the ache in my chest started to fade. Not disappear, just get quiet. I'd wake up on Sundays and drink coffee on the balcony without wondering where she was or who she was texting. I started to enjoy the quiet. I started sleeping better, eating better. I signed up for a half marathon, not to prove anything, just because I could. It hit me one night after a long ride, legs sore, shirt soaked, standing in the kitchen eating peanut butter straight from the jar. I wasn't broken anymore. I wasn't that guy bending over backward just to keep someone from walking out. I wasn't scared of being alone. Hell, I liked it. I wasn't looking back. The next morning, I deleted every last photo of her from my phone. Didn't hesitate, didn't flinch, just selected, hit delete, and watched them disappear. Then I grabbed my keys and headed out for another ride. A week after that ride, the headmaster called me into his office. "You've got a sharp head, Jake," he said, looking over my lesson analytics. "We're restructuring next semester. I want you leading the math department." I didn't ask questions, just nodded and shook his hand. After everything I'd lost, it felt damn good to be wanted for my brain and not just my ability to mop up someone else's mess. The new role meant longer hours, more meetings, and mentoring 3 younger teachers who'd never taught anything harder than Algebra I. But I didn't mind. The pressure gave me direction. What surprised me was how much I liked the people. I expected snobs or academic robots. What I got were coworkers who showed up with coffee when you looked like hell, who stayed late to help decorate your classroom for Spirit Week, who remembered your favorite kind of chips during lunch duty. I started hanging out with a few of them on weekends. Casual dinners, trivia nights, cycling trails on Sunday mornings. At first I said no to everything, too used to isolating. But then one Saturday, I just showed up, and it wasn't weird. It felt normal. That's how I met Rachel. She taught AP English, wore Vans with every outfit, and always carried 3 pins clipped to her shirt like she was about to rewrite a novel mid-conversation. We ended up on the same hike one weekend, part of a group trail event one of the science teachers organized. She kept pace with me the entire way, asking real questions. None of that fake small talk. Halfway up the ridge, we stopped for water. "So what brought you to Chattanooga?" she asked, sitting on a rock, hair pulled back in a loose braid. I paused, bottle in hand. Needed a clean break. She gave a slight nod, didn't pry. Same. That was it. No digging, no pity. Just 2 people who'd survived something and didn't need to unpack it right then. We started talking more at work. Coffee breaks, lunch. I found myself waiting outside her classroom just to say something dumb like, "Hey, did you see how bad Stevens butchered the announcements again?" She always had a quick comeback. "If he stutters one more time, I'm starting a petition to pre-record them." It wasn't fast. It wasn't flirty. It was easy, like breathing. At first, I was hesitant. I didn't want to need anyone again. Didn't want to wrap my life around someone else's storm. But Rachel didn't pull me into hers. She just walked next to mine. We went to a book fair one Saturday and ended up sitting on the curb with tacos for 2 hours talking about nothing and everything. I told her about my failed fantasy football team. She told me about the time she accidentally cursed in front of the school board and still got the job. I laughed so hard I choked on hot sauce. That night, I drove home with music blasting, windows down, heart steady. I still had my solo routine, cycling 3 times a week, hiking trails alone when I needed space, running department meetings with zero slack. But something had shifted. I wasn't dragging dead weight anymore. I wasn't asking for love or attention like it was a favor. I remembered who I was before the chaos, before the late-night guilt trips, and the emotional yo-yo that had me questioning everything. I remembered what it felt like to just exist without constantly checking my phone or second-guessing every damn thing I said. I wasn't healed completely, but I was strong, balanced, present. One Thursday afternoon, Rachel passed me in the hall, and tossed me a granola bar without slowing down. "You look like someone who forgot lunch," she said. I grinned and unwrapped it. "You always carry snacks?" "Only for people who don't fall apart under pressure." I took a bite and kept walking. I was grading essays in the teacher's lounge when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but muscle memory kicked in and I checked. "Jake, it's Emily. Can we talk?" I made a huge mistake. I stared at the screen like it was a bad joke. 6 months. Nothing. Now she wanted to talk? I locked the phone, shoved it in my pocket, and got back to the essays. But 20 minutes later, it buzzed again. "Please, just 5 minutes. You deserve to hear everything." I didn't answer. I didn't even open the thread, but I didn't delete it either. That was my mistake, because after that, she didn't stop. The next day, it was a voicemail. Her voice was shaky, but still familiar. "I know you probably hate me. I get it, but I messed up, Jake. Luke wasn't who I thought he was." 2 days after that, another text. "I've been going to therapy. I finally understand what I did to you. Please let me explain." Then paragraphs, full confessionals. Her and Luke barely lasted 2 months. He moved to Denver. She thought about calling me right after, but said she was too ashamed. Said I was the only real thing she'd ever had. On and on. I didn't reply. Not once. But it started to get to me. Not because I missed her. I didn't. But because I was angry she thought I'd just come running back. Like everything she said and did was just a bad dream we could laugh about now. Rachel noticed it before I even said a word. "You're quieter this week," she said one afternoon as we were walking back to the parking lot. "I'm fine," I said. She looked at me. Liar. I stopped walking. Took a breath. Emily reached out. Her eyes flicked down, then back to me. And I didn't answer. "But you're thinking about it." I didn't say anything. We stood in silence for a second. She leaned against her car. "You don't owe her anything." "I know." "You sure?" "Because you look like you're carrying something." I exhaled hard. "It just pisses me off." She dragged me through the mud, made me feel like a damn afterthought. Now I'm finally good, and she wants a seat at the table again. Rachel didn't try to sugarcoat it. That's not guilt. That's manipulation in a prettier dress. She wasn't wrong. The next few days, I kept busy. Biking, lesson planning, happy hour with coworkers. But late at night, my phone would light up again. "I remember the way you used to look at me like I was your whole world. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I'd give anything to go back." I stopped reading them. Eventually, I just left her on mute. But the buzzing still came. Calls, missed voicemails, texts getting longer and more desperate. One Saturday, I pulled into a trailhead and just sat in the car, phone in hand, thumb hovering over the thread. And then I thought about all the times she'd turned things around on me. How she made me feel guilty for not being more fun. How I gave up pieces of myself while she flirted with someone else. I opened the messages. Not to read them, just to block the number again. I pressed down, held it, hit block contact. Then I turned off my phone and hit the trail hard, like I was leaving something behind with every step. 3 days after I blocked Emily again, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Jake, it's Lisa. I can't believe you're ignoring her like this. You owe her a conversation." Lisa, Emily's sister. I hadn't seen her since that recovery party. I deleted the text, but she wasn't done. The next day, another one came in. "You ghosted her. That's cold. At least be a man and hear her out." I stared at the message, jaw tight, phone hot in my hand. I almost fired back a response, something sharp, but I didn't. I already knew how this worked. Guilt was their family's second language. I tossed the phone across the bed and headed to work. That afternoon, as I was shutting down my laptop, I saw another message pop up, this time from Aaron, a guy I used to work with back in Lexington. "Hey man, not trying to take sides, but Emily's been really wrecked. Just thought you'd want to know." Then it started trickling in. People I hadn't heard from in months. Old coworkers, a mutual friend or two, even someone from Emily's art department who I barely knew. "She talks about you all the time. She made a mistake. Haven't you ever made one too? You were good together. Don't let one bad call ruin everything." I kept deleting, one after another, but it started getting under my skin. I hated that part of me, the part that still felt responsible for her feelings. Like if I didn't answer, I was being heartless. But deep down, I knew the truth. I'd given her everything. My time, my energy, my trust, and she torched it. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment with the lights off, staring at my phone. I'd reinstalled one of the old messaging apps, just for a second, just long enough to see if she'd left anything new. She had. A long message, poured out like a damn poem, talking about memories, regrets, her dad's health declining again, how Luke had ghosted her, how her life had lost color. I stared at it until my eyes burned, thumb hovering over the screen. Then Rachel texted, "You still coming to trivia tonight?" Simple, normal, no drama, just real life. I looked back at Emily's message one last time. Then I deleted the app and stood up. At the bar, Rachel was already at the table, laughing with the group, half a cider in. She spotted me and slid over to make room. "You made it," she said. "Barely," I muttered, sitting down. "You okay?" I looked around at the room. The noise, the people, the completely drama-free atmosphere. I nodded. I am now. Halfway through the game, we were arguing about whether jellyfish had brains when my phone buzzed again. I didn't even check. I turned it face down on the table and took another sip. Later that night, alone in bed, I didn't think about Emily. I didn't think about Luke, or her sister, or the messages piling up. I thought about how peaceful my apartment was, about how good it felt to be wanted, not needed, to exist without someone dragging me through their chaos. Whatever Emily was dealing with now, it wasn't mine to fix, and I wasn't going back. The second I walked into the reception hall, I knew I'd made a mistake. I spotted her the moment I stepped past the bar. Emily, hair darker, face thinner, dressed too formal for a backyard wedding. She stood by the gift table, pretending to read a card, but watching me from the corner of her eye. I should have turned around. Rachel touched my arm. That her? I nodded. Yeah. You want to leave? I shook my head, not giving her that power. We found our seats at a table near the back. I kept my focus on the dance floor, on Rachel, on the dumb centerpiece that was a mason jar full of plastic daisies. But I felt Emily's eyes on me all night. Right after the first toast, she made her move. She waited until Rachel stepped away to say hi to someone from her department. I saw her coming, heels clicking slow across the floor like she was trying not to spook me. Jake, she said, stopping right next to my chair. I didn't stand. Emily. Her eyes flicked to the empty seat beside me. Can we talk? I let out a quiet sigh. Make it quick. She sat. Too close. I didn't know you'd be here. She started. Sure you didn't. I mean it. I almost didn't come. I looked her over. Her hands were shaking. Makeup flawless, but her lips were cracked. The confidence she always wore like armor, gone. I've been wanting to talk to you for months, she said. But you made it pretty clear you weren't interested. Still not. Her eyes watered. Jake, please. I know I messed up. I didn't realize what I had with you until it was gone. Luke, he wasn't who I thought he was. He bailed the second things got real. I stared at her. And that's supposed to make me what? Feel lucky? Grateful I got to be your fallback? She shook her head. No. God, no. I didn't see it back then. You were always there. You showed up. You cared. I took that for granted. I was stupid. I leaned back in my chair. You were cruel. That stopped her. I bent over backward for you, I said. Skipped promotions. Took care of your responsibilities. Watched you text your ex and call me boring while I made you dinner. She blinked, tears slipping now. I was hurting. I didn't know how to ask for help. You asked for plenty. I snapped. I just stopped asking for anything back. She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. I've changed, she whispered. I've done the work. I go to therapy. I've been trying to become someone who deserves you. It's not about what you deserve, Emily. It's about what I need. And I don't need you. Her face crumpled. Please, just talk to me. We can figure this out. No, I said, standing up. You figured out what I was worth too late. She stood too. You don't understand. My dad's sick again. I'm alone. I have no one. I looked her dead in the eye. You had someone. You threw him away. She reached again, voice cracking. Jake, don't walk away. Please. I'm begging you. Beg all you want, I said. It's over. I turned, walked across the floor without rushing, past the cake table, past the DJ's blown-out speakers, past people who definitely heard enough to piece it together. Rachel was waiting near the bar, arms crossed, face unreadable. She corner you? She asked. Yeah. You okay? I nodded. Better than I've ever been. We walked out into the cool night, the music fading behind us. I didn't look back. We got in the car, Rachel driving, me staring out the window as the wedding lights faded in the mirror. Want to talk about it? She asked. I shook my head. Not really. She didn't push. We stopped for milkshakes on the way home. Strawberry for her, chocolate for me. Sat in the parking lot with the windows cracked, radio low. Nothing heavy, nothing dramatic, just calm. Back at my place, while she showered, I opened my laptop. There were still a few back doors open, old mutual contacts, shared photo folders, one email address I never bothered to shut down. I went through them one by one, logged in, deleted, blocked, erased. It wasn't rage. It wasn't sadness. It was like finally sweeping up the last bit of glass after a window's been broken for too long. By the time Rachel came out, towel on her head, all of it was gone. You good? She asked, drying her hair. Yeah, I said. I'm finally good. It had been a year, give or take. A year since I left the apartment I used to call home. A year since I walked out of a party with my pride scraped off the floor. Since I started rebuilding everything I thought I lost. I'd never felt lighter. Work was solid. My classroom ran like a machine. My team respected me. And for once I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. I had space to breathe, to teach, to lead. And Rachel, she was steady, sharp, never asked for more than what was real. She didn't need saving. She just walked beside me. That was the difference. Emily had been a storm I was always trying to hold together. Rachel was the quiet after. The last thing I did that night was delete the final backup of our old photos from the cloud. There was no hesitation, no twinge, Just a clean click and a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. That was the moment it ended for good. I closed the laptop, walked out onto the balcony, and leaned against the railing. The street below was still, the night air cool against my face. Behind me, Rachel stepped out, blanket around her shoulders. She handed me my milkshake. "Forgot this," she said. I took it from her, smiled, and clinked mine gently against hers. "To better things," I said. We both took a sip and looked out at the quiet.